All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our RBT practice questions series where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're turning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass the exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's keep going. A behavior technician is working with a client who's been engaging in disruptive behavior during class. To address this, the behavior plan includes a response cost procedure whenever the client engages in disruptive behavior. What is the goal of the response cost? It's a response cost question. And what is a response cost? Well, it's when you remove a reinforcer, rather earned or a bonus reinforcer, due to a behavior. So with the contingency. If you do this behavior, I'm going to remove this reinforcer. In this case, the client is disruptive during class. And so the plan says whenever the client is disruptive, we're going to remove something with the response cost. So what is the goal of a response cost? Well, a response cost is a punishment procedure. So with any punishment procedure, the goal is reduction. Let's look at A, increased behavior that is less disruptive. We're not going to use a punishment procedure to increase a replacement behavior because punishment always decreases. B, decrease disruptive behavior. Yes, the whole purpose, the whole goal of a response cost, which is a punishment procedure, is to reduce a target behavior. In this case, disruptive behavior. Disruptive behavior occurs. We remove something in hopes that it will be punishing. C, negatively reinforce disruptive behavior. Response cost is a punishment procedure. So C is out. We're not trying to reinforce the disruption. And then D, teacher replacement behavior to the client. We're not mentioning or talking about replacement behaviors here. We're simply focused on the problem behavior, which is disruption. And what we're going to do in response is remove something whenever the disruptive behavior occurs. So the goal of that response cost is B, decrease disruptive behavior. Amelia typically eats her pizza with her hands. Today, however, the pizza is extremely hot, so Amelia grabs a fork and knife and eats the pizza with utensils. Eating pizza with hands and with a fork and a knife represent what? All right, so whose behavior are we looking at? We're looking at Amelia's, and we're looking at her eating pizza with both her hands and with a fork and knife. Now, we know typically she eats pizza with her hands. So she sees the stimulus of pizza, and then she engages in the response of eating with hands. Today, however, the pizza was hot, so she ate it with a fork and knife. So now we have a stimulus that it's evoking these multiple responses. And so when you have a stimulus that's evoking multiple responses, what do we call that? We call that a response generalization. Amelia has generalized responses to how to eat pizza. What about B, stimulus generalization? With stimulus generalization, it's the opposite. You have a single response that's occurring in the presence of multiple stimuli. In this case, we have multiple responses, therefore we have response generalization. Maintenance has to do with teaching and stopping teaching. We're not talking about teaching or stopping teaching, so we're not really discussing maintenance here. We're talking about the fact that Amelia is now generalizing her responses on how she eats her pizza. Whenever his classroom becomes too loud, Tom will cover his ears and start to cry. When Tom covers his ears and cries, his teacher lets him sit outside in the hall for 5 to 10 minutes to get away from the noise. Tom is always covering his ears and crying in the classroom. What is the most likely reason for this? All right, so we have an issue with Tom. And what do we know about Tom? What are we looking at? Well, we're looking at the fact that Tom is covering his ears and starting to cry when the classroom becomes too loud. As a result, what's the consequence? His teacher lets him sit outside to get away from the noise. So immediately, you should start thinking that this is a negative consequence because what is happening? Well, Tom is escaping the noise. The noise is being removed. Tom is escaping the situation. So we're thinking along the lines of negative. Now, how does this impact Tom's behavior? Tom covers his ears and starts to cry. He escapes the noise. What happens? Tom is always covering his ears and crying in the classroom. So his behavior continues. So is his behavior being reinforced or punished? What's being reinforced? If that behavior continues, that consequence is reinforcing. If Tom had stopped covering his ears and stopped crying, then it would have been an actual punishment. But it's not, because Tom is still covering his ears and crying in the classroom, even though he's being removed. So what is the likely reason? A, positive reinforcement. Well, the consequence isn't positive, it's negative, right? Because he is getting away, he's escaping the situation, he's escaping the noise. Something is being removed from the situation. So we're looking at B, negative reinforcement. We know it's not C and D because we know it's not punishing. Why? How do we know it's not punishing? Well, because Tom is still covering his ears and crying. And so if his behavior isn't decreasing, we know the consequence cannot be punishing. Grayson is using a token economy with a client. Target behavior is staying on task, which is a reward with a token. Grayson provides his client a token after 3 minutes, then again after 6 minutes, then again after 2 minutes, and once more after 3 minutes. What is the reinforcement schedule? All right, so we have a reinforcement schedule question, and it's going to require just a little bit of math. What we're using is a token economy. Target behavior is staying on task, which gives a token. Grayson gets a token after 3 minutes, after 6 minutes, after 2 minutes, and again after 3 minutes. So immediately, is this schedule fixed or variable? Well, it has to be variable, right? Because reinforcement is being delivered on different patterns. The schedule is changing. So we know it's not going to be fixed. So if it's a variable schedule, that just means an average. So on average, when is reinforcement delivered? Well, let's add it up. We have 3 minutes. So 3, and then 6 minutes, and then 2 minutes, and then 3 minutes. To get our average, we divide by the total number of data points, which is 4. And that's going to give us variable interval 3.5. We know it's variable because these are all different. The reinforcement schedule is changing. We know it's an interval because it has to do with time. And then we find the average, which gives us the 3.5. Very straightforward as long as you work at it. And as long as you can find an average, then the variable schedule questions are, again, pretty straightforward. You know it's variable, you know it's an interval. Now we just find the average, and that gives us our full, complete answer. Kurt is teaching a new employee how to properly apply wax to a car. Kurt tells the employee that they shouldn't apply the wax using an up and down motion, but rather a circular motion. The employee starts using a circle motion instead. Distinguishing between two responses is considered what? All right, so if we're distinguishing between two responses or choosing between two responses, what are we doing? We have a situation here where the employee is told don't use up and down, but go in a circle. So the employee needs to distinguish between the up and down motion and the circular motion. So what is the employee doing? Well, he is differentiating. Response differentiation occurs when you have multiple responses and we're choosing or identifying between different responses. In this case, the responses are the up and down motion versus the circular motion. What's the difference between differentiation and discrimination? Well, discrimination has to do with stimulus discrimination. So the full term is response differentiation. The full term is stimulus discrimination. That's how you can remember this. With discrimination, we're worried about the stimuli, not the responses. Here, we're worried about the responses, which makes it differentiation. We're not generalizing here. We're just talking about one car or one situation, and it's not maintenance because we're not checking to see if he continues to do it after being taught. All we know is we're dealing with multiple responses that he has to distinguish between the employee does. Therefore, he is engaging in response differentiation. Thank you for watching. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. When you pass your exam, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. We'll see you soon.